a later time. And we're talking about what are you doing in 2022 and how to set guideposts. And our guest today is Phil Kever, who's from, I always do that, Phil Verghis from Kever Insight. And he'll be talking with us in just a few minutes. But first, a few announcements. This is the San Francisco HDI local chapter, and these are our board members. A few of us are here today. I am the president of the local chapter, and Jason Verghis is here, and he's one of our leadership team members. And I don't see anybody else that has joined yet, but Sally Baker from UC Berkeley should be here at some point during the event. We do regular meetings, both as San Francisco specific meetings as well as during the pandemic. We have been collaborating with our other West Coast chapter friends from Seattle, Portland, and Los Angeles and Sacramento. So in March, we're doing a lightning talks event, which means we're going to have 5 or 6, I'm not sure how many, we have 5 right now, I think we'll have 6 folks who have an expertise in some area of the employee experience, which of course with the Great Resignation is becoming more of a focus for all of us. And they will talk for about 5 minutes on a piece of that puzzle of employee experience. We did this last year on knowledge management, knowledge support, and it was really excellent. So I'm looking forward to that. And then in April, we still have, we will be coming up with our April event. In May, HDI Corporate, which is of course the for-profit organization that HDI local chapters is partnered with, is doing their Supreme event, and it's going to be live this year again, finally, and it will be in Las Vegas, so that's close for us on the West Coast, the week of May 16th. So if you're thinking of going, I want to make sure everybody knows that for HDI local chapter members, San Francisco local chapter members, you get a $150 discount in order to off of the registration for Support World Live. And there is, I put the link here, which we will be posting these slides, and we'll be communicating more about the join now and save. But if you are thinking of going to Support World Live, make sure that you don't forget, get your discount code for San Francisco chapter and get that extra $150 off. In addition, if you register by March 25th, you get $400 savings. Thanks to all our sponsors for the local chapter. They allow us to operate. We look forward to spending some of our money and doing local events as soon as we are all of our board are in agreement that it's time to meet in person. We are still planning to continue with our virtual meetings, at least for the time being. Most of us are working for companies who are still struggling with the return to the office and also just the the concern over safety and health. So until then, we will continue with our virtual events. So that brings us to our program. And for any of you who have recently joined our meeting today, please do put your name and your company into your Zoom picture and introduce yourself in the chat so that we all can get to know each other virtually with our best tools here that we have. So I'm going to hand this over to Phil. I'll stop my share, Phil, in just a second and let you share. But Phil Verghis, I met at an HDI Support World Live conference many, many years ago. And he was speaking on, he always spoke on topics that I found interesting for where my particular service desk and support operations was at the time. And the particular year I very distinctly remember Phil's talk was about the culture of managing remote teams, which I had a team that was in Mountain View, India, China, Portugal, and Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. And that particular topic my boss also found really useful, which is where going to Support World Live conference is very handy. But I followed along with a lot of the work that Phil has done because he also tends to focus on knowledge, which was an area I very much supported and worked on in my service desk management role. So Phil wrote a series of articles on setting your guideposts and planning for what you're doing in 2022. So when we decided to have a look at what everybody's doing in 2022, I reached out to Phil and asked him if he would help us to set the discussion today, and that's what he's going to do. And Phil, I will hand it over to you.
Thanks, Terry. Hi, folks. Glad you guys all made it. Looking forward to connecting with you either through chat or on LinkedIn or any other medium if you find this useful. If you happen to make it and take advantage of that great HDI discount, I will be speaking at HDI Live this year, my first conference in 2 years. I was a chair of the Strategic Advisory Board of HDI. I've been part of HDI and support for a long, long time, my entire career, starting with internal IT at universities. Then I moved to an MIT spin-off some of you may know called Akamai, the first content delivery network. So when cloud, DevOps, SaaS, and customer success didn't exist, we were doing all of that in 1999-2000. So we developed what is now called intelligence swarming, a lot of work with knowledge, a lot of funky things we had to scale massively. So my specialty is how to scale massively with sort of building the people up with it rather than trying just with technology. So that's the propaganda, and I just quickly walk you through the deck. The plan is to spend maybe 5 or 6 minutes setting the context for what a guidepost is. I'm sure a few of you, perhaps none, did the pre-work and looked up some of the blogs, but I'll give you the synopsis of it and why. As we have worked with companies from the size of HPE, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, or Salesforce at the VP, SVP level, to small startups, universities, University of California system, we have found the guideposts and the work that comes out of that to be some of the most foundational that you can do, whether it's knowledge or anything else you do. So with that, I'm going to get started, and let me know when you can see the screen, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes? Okay.
I see it.
Great. Super. So let's get started. So the 30-second propaganda on Kever Insight, our goal, we're consultants now basically, and our goal is to empower experts everywhere, and we do it for 3 sets of people. One are leaders, managers, and the third are teams. For leaders, we are data-driven advisors, and we help people come up with sort of big picture strategy for the next year or years, all the way to work on specific projects. For managers who typically have maybe 10 minutes a day to take all that theory and make it happen in the middle of all the firefighting that you're doing, we work with them on how to translate that into sort of small practical skill books, we call them. So in 10 minutes a day, how do I take this, delight the customer, delight your employee, make everybody love knowledge to reality? So that's kind of what we work with. And we work with teams and managers, and we have some self-paced training. So I'll share some of that training as part of a giveaway at the end for up to 5 people. And that's basically a CS training really reimagined. So I'll show that with you. So setting the context for a guidepost and what we'll spend a good bulk of the time on. So the blogs that Terry had mentioned I'd written up on was based on work that many companies we seem to be doing year after year, which is what the heck should we do this year? We've got some money. We're planning to make these changes. So the first 4 blogs really were what is a guidepost statement, which we are going to walk through now. The second one really reminds leaders to ask your employees, right? We know where the bodies are buried, and often leaders and consultants forget to ask us. So really ask what's working, what's not working, what's the difference between theory and reality. we might claim as leaders, oh, we love our employees and they love us. Really? Let's talk and understand. Again, when you talk about global structures, different groups, different subcultures exist, which will have different implications, right? So talk to them. The other big shift, particularly now as we're moving to this newer world where you can sit from home, dress the same way you always dressed, and with the same commute, move to another job, right? So it's always been the case. It's become a much bigger deal now. And a big shift is having managers move from enforcers. I tell you to do what I tell you. You do what I tell you because I know what you do, to a coach because actually we don't have a clue what you do and together we don't know. So that's another big shift that is part of the blog. And the last one is really a foundational thing for all the other work you do. Moving from a mentality of cases, escalations, backlogs, CSAT, to a knowledge first at the core of everything you do, you can do some really amazing work, especially when you move outside just IT or support to legal, engineering, IT, sales. And we've got companies that have done some cool work there. So that's the blog sequence. We're going to start talking about guideposts now. If you think about a statement that really, in my opinion, explains how a well-run organization is, it is this one. The best-run organizations have a strategy that everyone understands and connects employee behaviors to achieving their strategy. So it's all about behavior. You can come up with these grand plans at an enterprise level, at a corporate level, at a divisional level, at a department level. But it's really about behaviors that you've got to think about. What do employees do in order to make that strategy a reality? If you don't connect those two, really nothing works. And what is that strategy? Strategy is the big picture. What is a big picture? We normally translate that into a vision statement. What's a vision statement? What do I want to be when I grow up? Right? That's what it says. We will be this great, amazing, insert all the cool stuff there. What's the mission statement? It tells you, here's how I'm going to get there. The problem with both those is it's kind of wishy-washy, right? We will be the world's best. We will be something delightful. Always, nobody says we want to be a so-so company doing kind of sort of not so boring stuff, right? So really the key is you got to come up with a guidepost statement. And the guidepost statement really is a short, sweet statement that your team or your department or your company uniquely is accountable for. So it's really important to remember that, right? So vision statements, big picture, mission statements, how you get there. Think of a mission, sort of a guidepost statement as something that says, if you're in a raft in the middle of the ocean with no lights around you, nothing to guide, you can't see any land. You're all in a rowboat. Everybody panics and rows in different directions. You're not going to go anywhere. Where should you go? That's kind of the guidepost statement, right? You can't have too many things going on because, again, in moments of chaos, in moments of complexity, which is all our world, when you've got people and everything unpredictable, you need to have the freedom in which you need to make your own move, right? You can't be constrained, but you need to have some sort of broad guidelines. That's the context of a guidepost statement. So it should be short and memorable, something workers can sort of easily remember and understand. It should offer enough wiggle room so they aren't locked into specific paths, but are encouraged to choose from an array of smart options to meet the actual need. Right? I'm not telling you exactly what to do. And then another really interesting thing, if you do this well, particularly if you're trying to do a guidepost statement for a department as opposed to a specific initiative like knowledge, is you should get this validated by other people. Because you can say, I'm the king of the world, or I could say I'm the king of the world, but if none of you agree, it doesn't matter, right? So if you are not uniquely accountable for something, that's the word, uniquely accountable. So I'll walk you through a couple of examples for that in just a moment. But does this make sense conceptually of what a guidepost is? Not a big picture, not theoretical, excellent. Great. So I'll give you two examples. The first one is an organization. I can tell you which one this was because we did a number of talks at a number of conferences on this. This was Red Hat. 2008, when they were starting to explode in popularity, a new VP came on board and they were trying to figure out, okay, we've got so much demand, we're overloaded. What should we do? We're just growing so fast. So long story short, I asked them, so what do you do? And they gave all sorts of things. I said, no, that's not it. So he came up with this one that says, we own subscriber loyalty. It was key because that own meant that every aspect of subscriber loyalty. It was key because before IT, customer success, sales, everybody kind of had a piece of it. But once they agreed on this and got this validated by other groups, every other group understood why this team was able to go stick their nose with another department and say, yeah, the portal isn't kind of sort of working, but here's why we want to get involved. Yeah, you're selling something that's completely inconsistent and it's causing a bad experience. Here's why we're sticking our nose in. Because we all agreed. Does it make sense? So this is a non-trivial thing to do well, but it's really critical. So if any of you do it at the department level, happy to spend more time with you and walk you through some examples. But this is huge because everything you do now comes from this. I'll go down quickly now to a specific example, and that is one with swarming, right? So for those of you who are familiar with the terms, swarming really means that when support becomes too complex and a traditional tiered model doesn't work, right? Some people have completely replaced it. Some people have a hybrid. But the idea is when you need multiple groups in very, very complex environments. So this is one we just finished with a company I can't name, but it's a massive company in our space. And basically the SVP's, the guidepost statement for that specific initiative said, if issues require further collaboration beyond our standard support process, we'll use knowledge first swarming, which is the initiative we led with them. And we just finished it. The pilot just finished Monday, to reduce time to resolve and team effort. So the key here is that the two measures also were included in this. So when you define the scope of the project, this is it. This is the guidepost. Is it outside? So for example, people came up and said backlog, right? Backlog's a big pain, too much work piling up. Does it fit into the guidepost? No. Why? Because backlog is a byproduct of a normal crappy process we have, right? We don't take care of customers fast enough. It's nothing outside a standard process. So it's really good to help you fix scope creep, and then you know exactly what to do. So building on this for just a moment more, knowledge first swarming is going to be used to reduce time to resolve. This is for complex cases that could take weeks or months to resolve till the customer says it's done. And to reduce the team effort, also very important because it's complex, it's messy. You've got to go to multiple people to help. Here's the measures that we came up with as a group to find it, to address that. So I'm just giving an example of a guidepost that then came up with the measures. Because we said we'll use it to reduce time to resolve, same day, next day, right? You call this time to relief, time to resolution. Easier in my perspective to say it same day, next day, because it comes from field services, right? It's really easy. Everybody understands same day or next day. TTR, I don't quite understand. I don't know how big or bad a number is. To get it done today, same business day or next business day. That's it. Second one, to measure how they were doing in guidepost was customer effort score, right? That's one that's fairly common. Not CSAT. How much effort did the customer take compared to what they expected? Another one, employee effort score. Very rarely done. I would strongly encourage you to include this in your measurements. Employee effort score literally says that, right? Which is how much effort did it take you to get something done? So as a leader, your job is to reduce employee effort score as well, because it makes everybody happy and gets those behaviors better. And the last measure there was collaboration effort score, which is if you had to get asked for help from other groups, how easy was it for them to help you? How easy did they make it for you to get your work done? But this is complex support. So Very, very quickly, I'm just going to quickly go back to it. 2 quick examples we had. Guidepost says, instead of something vague, give me something precise and unique that others agree this is our job, right? 2 ways to do it. One is for a bigger group or an organization. It takes more time and you have to get agreement from other groups as to, yes, this is what we do. And the second one is for specific initiatives. You can actually use guidepost statements really well to prevent scope creep, come up with the right measures, and then drive the right behaviors through it. Everything you do should say, does it fit our guidepost or not? And does it fit the measures? If not, don't do it, or do more of it, or do less of it. Make sense? Very, very clean approach, but it takes effort to make it clean and simple. Great. Since you all said it's easy for you to do, here's what we're going to do. And this is where the interactivity part comes in. So we're going to split into groups, and I believe we'll do it in 2 groups, right, Terry? Not 3?
Actually, we have enough people for 3, so we'll do 3.
Super. And it pre-chosen is probably going to be random, but let's pretend it's pre-chosen by some magic AI-based ML algorithm. How's that? That sounds good, right? And cool. Since we're pretending we are marketing and we're going to give a vision statement. That's what we're doing. So just quickly, there's a couple of possible roles. One suggestion is make sure that you choose one person as a facilitator, right? So maybe Terry and Jason, if you two are in different groups, that may be good. And maybe you guys can just be the facilitator to make sure we keep up on time. The other one is somebody who should be chosen ahead of time as the presenter. And the presenter is, again, somebody who's going to come back and talk to the group.
Different group than, yeah. So Jason, Sally, and I will be in different groups.
Oh, super.
So we can make
Thank you. And thank you for the finger there.
Presenter.
Excellent. Thank you. And I'll bounce around if I can. So we'll put the link in chat. There's basically going to be a Google Doc or share. I'll just quickly walk you through the Google Doc and make this happen. Just 1 second. Let's see. Let's get to you the right Google Doc. Okay. So when you click on the link, if you just take a moment, this is what it looks like. There'll be at the header will tell you the group. So when you're in the group, just enter the stuff in the right group. There's 2 pages per group. Just a quick reminder, there's 2 guideposts. One is for the organization, one is for a specific initiative. It could be, so you may want to start with the initiative. That may be easier. Either something you're struggling with, you're thinking of rolling out for the year. Really, really important. Tells you what you uniquely do, ideally with measures. You're going to get in groups. We talked about the roles there. So in each group, for part 1, for about 2 minutes, reflect on if you have a guidepost statement or what a good candidate would be, just think about what a good one might be. Then you're going to enter it in. So just enter your name and what the guidepost that you came up with, right? So there's no judgment. It is being recorded, but I'm sure for a small fee, we'll make sure it's not available to others. But anyway, point is, just be vulnerable, right? This is all practice. It takes time and you'll figure it out. Then the next thing you're going to do is then the facilitators will just keep track of the time. After about 5 minutes, then choose one of the ones that you've entered and decide that's the one that you guys are going to work on as a group, right? After about 5 minutes, so totally about 10 minutes, you'll get to prepare this whole thing. And then right at the end, you're going to come back and report back to us and tell us how the process went, what you chose, how you think you'll measure it, what surprised you about the process, good or bad, what you learned, and nothing is a fine answer, right? We can't pretend this will work for everybody, and any takeaways for others. Make sense? So the times are a guideline. We're about, it's 3:26, so let's just assume that in about 20-ish minutes we're back. So ignore some of the times there, just use them as guidelines. But in about 5 minutes, you should have started and got the guidepost chosen. And then maybe for 10 minutes, you're going to be working on what that is and the measures. Make sense? Terry has my cell phone number and I'll be bouncing in and out. Yeah. So the link is back. I'm going to put that back in here. It's here, and I'll put that in chat. Oops. I'll get the link for you in a second. How's it? I'll stop sharing and I'll get that for you in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Right, screen. Put it back.
So this is Sally. I have a question. Have you tried this exercise with this short timelines? Because it seems like a lot of things to collect in 4 and 5 minutes each.
It will be a little bit of a
we actually
challenge.
have-
We know that.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll try.
Let's give it a try, but since most are from box, I suspect whatever Jason says will happen, so that'll be easy. No, just kidding. No, it actually really depends, because the whole idea is not to get perfection, but to see what you can learn. Do you get the concepts and does that work?
Okay.
More than actually coming up with one that works. But small last answer, so you've got the links, you can just get started in as soon as the rooms get set up. But I will say, the bigger the groups, the shorter the time, the better it is. If you give more time, people end up spending too much time talking about what they could do and not coming up with an answer.
or what they're doing for the weekend. Okay.
So
I'm
in
gonna
about
get the
15
group
minutes, you'll have
going.
started and done. Yeah.
I have the rooms open for 20 just because I don't want anybody to be cut off, but we will come back in and let you know when the rooms are going to close. And Phil, you're starting in room 1, and
Okay.
actually it looks like, hang on. I may have to rejuggle the rooms because it looks like we lost a few people in room 2. So 2.
Feel free to start thinking about the guidepost statement in the meantime, what it'll be, what initiative you think will be a good one, and that'll be that's the hardest thing to do.
Make sure you open the doc, and then here we go.
Hello. Hey there.
What it do, y'all?
Hi there.
Okay, so I
Hi,
guess this is our group
Kevin
then?
and I'm going to assign you guys. Did you guys just join, or did you?
We joined a few minutes ago.
Yeah, correct. Sorry.
Okay, so you should see a join breakout room in the usually lower right-hand corner of your screen somewhere.
Negative.
And if you're not assigned, I'm going to assign you. See, Kevin. I'm assigning you, Kevin. And Giovanni. And Nisha. Were you here for the instructions, Hanisha?
I heard a little bit of it, yes, but I'm sure I'll catch
Okay.
up.
Okay. And Adrian, were you here for the instructions, Adrian?
I jumped in a little late as well.
Okay. I'm going to put you in room 2.
Okay, great.
And Rolando, were you here for the prep?
A little bit.
A little bit. To be totally honest, as we like to say. I'm going to put you into room 1, and actually I'm going to go to room 1 in just a second.
technical issues because I don't even have a way to go from room to room. So Terry has to send me. So I didn't even get to room 3 myself. So
Gotcha.
every group has different techniques. And as everybody being volunteers, nobody has time to quite get all the details, but hopefully it worked.
Luckily, we could probably Slack them on a different channel and tell them how to get there. Oh, we got another attendee there.
Yeah.
A junior attendee
Yeah, you register there, buddy.
And in training.
in training.
I know, geez, I would have wanted to get that early at the start.
Mr. Parent, how you
Get them
doing?
while the brain cells are young.
Phil.
Oh wow, we got Reddit joining us. Cool.
Damn, Adrian, it's a nice arm candy you got there. When did that happen?
2 weeks ago.
Congratulations, Dad.
Wow.
Good job.
Congrats.
Good work.
Thank you.
Name?
I just sent my munchkin off to be with grandma, so sorry. No video bomb today.
It did close out the rooms. Welcome back. Everybody should be returning to us. And
Welcome back.
Sally was right. That was a lot to accomplish.
Says,
But
of course, Sally whipped her team to be finished 10 minutes before. So they were
Well, I
just
don't know
chatting in
about 10.
general now.
I don't know about 10, maybe 2.
Well,
We will
thanks for coming back.
share
Yeah.
the slides and some notes from today, so people can hopefully take what they remember of what we talked about and go to the next spot. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, thanks. I'm sorry I didn't get to group 3. We had some logistical issues moving, but just quickly, I want to step back and walk through again. The idea behind Guideposts, I think you all have now, which is really coming up with this unique thing that either your group does, if that's what you chose, or if you have specific initiatives for that. And then how do you know it's successful or not? I can tell you, having run gigs for companies of all sizes across tens of thousands of people to 15 people, this is one of the best ways to get people aligned, get people to understand where you're going, and keep people growing, the people themselves involved, right? And not to be pigeonholed into do this and do that, and that's all I do. If you say reduce tickets, write articles, all these goals on activities, it's exactly what you're going to get, right? So you don't want that behavior. So with that, for maybe 2-3 minutes, just thoughts from each of the groups, if you feel comfortable, telling us kind of how the process went, what you chose, how you're thinking of measuring it, what surprised you, what you learned. And you can be as blunt as you need to be. There's no need to be polite. We're all paid a lot of money to be here, so let's just be honest and vulnerable. How about group 3, since I didn't get to meet you guys?
Yeah, I can kind of, it was a little, it was an unusual, it was a different way of thinking that we all kind of like settled into like considering what we already do. And we started by going to our vision statement for our team. And we've had a vision statement and a mission statement that I think we all kind of aligned around with Jason's help years ago. And then from there, we kind of like looked at how do our teams and our sub teams measure performance against that vision, against that, that mission. So that vision statement is deliver end user solutions, experiences, and capabilities that will bring out the ultimate potential of every Boxer. And then we kind of had a buy, and then we listed the metrics, the measurements that we measure that off of. So that was kind of how we, that was like an overview of our process. And then the measurements that we started bringing, and this was, I don't know exactly if we did this right. We kind of just like ended up describing what we measure in our reporting and and we're trying to get better and in our ticketing system and things. So the sort of one thing that came up was availability of services. So, always trying to maximize when our customers, our users can get to services and whether it's our tickets or applications, measuring satisfaction. So actually asking users like, hey, what would you have changed, or what went well about this interaction with us. One thing we've definitely been measuring is time that new hires spend on IT tasks. And that one has been important to us to like measure how many new hires are wasting, spending time getting access, things that we could have predicted. And then the last one was a grow metric on like how both our team as individuals and also how Boxers as a whole are growing, personally and professionally and technologically, right? If we are thinking about aspirations of technology to, deploy to the users at Box, what does that look like? And how do we, I think maybe that's one where we don't know quite how to measure that one. I think we're maybe don't have a lot of measurements in place for things like that. And what surprised us and what we learned, I think I'll kind of blend that in with the takeaways section as well. I think we realized at one point it was obviously goal setting, frameworks. One I think Hanisha pointed out are all very can have similar fundamental components to them. So we do OKRs at Box. So we started talking about how this is actually kind of similar to our OKR process and some of the things that the way that we break down those goals and objectives. And we realized that maybe we haven't thought about it in this, maybe what Guideposts gave us was like, maybe we realized we could sort of take our OKRs and maybe come up with Guideposts in a way and maybe align around it as a team in the same way we've aligned around mission statement and vision statement, and come up with this Guidepost sort of phrasing and think about it. Maybe that would help us think about some of these aspirations, these things differently. And made us think about culture and engagement as a team for us to create guideposts and almost like principles and values for us to interact better with each other as a team. And yeah, so it's definitely valuable. I think everybody kind of got something out of the thinking about what we do and what opportunities we have for things that we don't do yet.
Thank you for that. And again, I'm sorry I couldn't get to your group. I think you'll see when the first two groups report back, I think they were starting at the same level, and I think they probably came down to something slightly different. So it may be interesting to just hear what they came up with and see if that helps. And again, I know we're at time. I've got plenty of time, but next group.
Yeah.
Terry, should we do that? Yeah,
quickly.
Yeah.
We are going to lose a few, but we will be doing a drawing. Some of you may win a gift from Kever Insight of a 1-month membership. So look forward to that if you're not here for the drawing. Want to do group 1?
Yeah.
Sure. I think we mostly were discussing, I think as Will kind of alluded to, just the definition of a guide point, how to make it less broad so that if you are sitting down to chat with a colleague, it doesn't apply necessarily to another service department. We noticed that with a lot of our example guide points, they maybe could also be applied to, say, people ops or workplace services, anything that mine, for example, started out really broad, enabling the workforce, which is way too broad. And then others in our team had specific examples, which were more like at the personal goal level. So us trying to get that really narrowed down definition of what a guide point is, how to use it. Along with Will, we also have company level goals. And I think a guide point is a nice way of kind of fitting it in there to keep aligning your daily activities, making sure that what you're doing in a moment is always using the guide point as an example of, how to decide between tasks, how to prioritize, using it as a helpful tool to move along, throughout your day, and then weekly planning, quarterly planning, all the way up to yearly planning. So I think realizing what the term means and how it can be used in your day-to-day activities, as well as all the way up to your yearly planning activities, is really interesting for us. So we had a couple examples in our document that I don't know if any of them hit the bullseye, but I think we are looking forward to learning more from the other groups and see what they came up with too.
Cool.
Thanks.
Group 2. Anybody left?
Yeah, definitely still left. Yeah. I think that, it's going to be hopefully it's not too insular given that we're all from, IT background, but yeah, a lot of the same kind of insight and observations initially, being so familiarized with the OKR process and having that ingrained, and using that in our day to day or, quarter to quarter. It's something where initially we did have a little bit of a back and forth kind of discussion, like, oh, hey, I wish there was an example kind of thing. But honestly, I actually like it better without an example because it really was thought provoking and trying to make that translation of, okay, here's what we're used to thinking, and this is the methodology that we would normally go through. But in specifically think about guideposts, I think the discussion was really good to kind of take that perspective instead and try to figure out how we wanted to list it. I think one thing initially was that we were paying a lot more attention to the wording of it, especially Phil was able to hop in and give us a little bit of a breakdown of our goalpost, or Sally has me saying goalpost now, our guidepost that we had it written in a way where we kind of like leaned towards our OKR way, where we didn't really take into account other teams or other related departments that could also be an owner of that. So I think the rewording and that perspective was really good to kind of think, hey, not just for our team, but even just more broadly, how do these goals, or this guidepost, is there too much, creep into another departments or teams kind of roles and responsibilities? And ultimately, are we going to set ourselves up to overlap too much and possibly have conflict, or maybe even just not provide as much business value, given that we would be approaching it in two different ways? Ultimately, we chose something that was improve the statement. You can read it. It's just improved day zero productivity for IT-related new hire onboarding, decreasing number of tickets submitted by new hires by providing preemptive access to tools and role-specific software. I think one thing from that, it was really good to have Sally in the discussion because it kind of gave us a little bit of a less insular kind of talking points and kind of that perspective on, metrics as well as, different things that she had. So it's always something where I think that at least with how our process goes, it's a lot more individualistic where, it's more, hey, here's the OKR top level goal. And then you might discuss it with a small number of the team. But a lot of the time, at least in the past, we've gotten better at it. We would be working individually to write out how we would, as individual contributors, contribute to meeting the OKR or, the vision statement in this case. So I think that it was a really good experience. And I think that we learned kind of to take different perspective into mind when approaching the writing out a guidepost.
Thanks. Since it sounds like, at least at Box and perhaps at many places, you do OKRs. I think OKRs, again, I've used for years. It's got a lot of good, but there's a lot of fluff in it, right? Because you're saying we will become a $10 billion company. Great. Sales, marketing, here's what I'm going to do to support that each department. But you're not really caring. And as long as it's green, you don't, frankly, at the end of the day, care how you do it, what you do, whether 3 people are doing it cross purposes, you don't really care. That is a level of... Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just had one question too, and it was kind of just with OKRs, it's a little bit like, okay, there's an OKR that's at the top of the company, and then it works its way down, and it's divvied up, it's chopped up into finer and finer pieces or elements that eventually can actually be worked on as opposed to delegated. How is that translated to the mission statement and vision statement? Like at what point do you go from having a mission statement or a vision statement to be a guidepost?
Yeah, so I'm very pragmatic about these things. So if you work with a company where you get somebody right at the top, like an SVP who's got 1,000, 10,000 people underneath, we can work with them and come up with something that's, again, we're not saying replace an OKR, nothing. It's just different purposes, right? I think OKRs have great, the intent is fantastic, alignment. The reality is how you do it can cause people to do things completely clashing, right? I'm going to get people on board faster. Well, I don't care if professional services involved, how complicated. I don't care if support can support it or not. I don't care if IT can do anything. Each will align to the high level, but not cross. Guidepost is a little bit more. It's something that I came up with when I was trying to deal with this chaos of massively growing companies when I was working, and not just before consulting. How the heck do you actually get people to talk to each other when you don't have time to talk? How do you even know that this is me and everybody helps me versus this is you and I help you? right? That's why in the example, the two groups that came in, the first group issue that almost came up was HR, employee services, enablement, whatever you call them. You could take whatever you said, they could do it too, right? So these conversations are important, but really it's getting people the chance to say, we can get this done. And now I know what I'm accountable for. This is why I'm sticking my nose into something that may not seem to be a legal issue. But I am telling you what you do here is going to impact somebody here, and I own this area, or I am accountable for this area. That's the beauty. It's a conversation piece, but it gives flexibility for the team. So I think it really sits well alongside an OKR. But it's not how high you go is, I'd suggest start with it at a project level. But again, I'm not sure of your hierarchy, but if Jason, you're the person right at the top, then you could certainly do it for your group, and then each group could do it underneath it, or you could do it for specific initiatives. Like we did, this big company for swarming, where they went from level 1, level 2, level 3 to a much different model. So that was across the world, many different groups. They would have not been possible. Everything that came out of it started with a guidepost. It's not the end, but it just tells you this is it, not this. So you can look at my blog, cleverinsight.com/blog, or even there's a webinar series where I've got a whole bunch of things. If you can stay awake through them, I've got a bunch of things that can help you with measurements and swarming and knowledge and all that. Any final thoughts or challenges to this? Was this a generally useful exercise? I know it was difficult to get your head around, and I appreciate those of you who said in the room, I'm lost, because it's important, right? Because I mean, it's a kind of a constrained, very quick moment we came together to talk about it. But I think you can see it's a part of communication, and hopefully you learn. This allows people from very different backgrounds, seniority, to have conversations that it exposes them to things that they, oh my God, I never even thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, I really
saw a
enjoyed
lot
it,
of
and
engagement.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Yeah, a lot of engagement with the folks in the discussions, which I was excited about. And Jason, since a lot of these guys are yours, I think it was pretty exciting how they were really thinking about how does this help me to be, how does this help me to move what I need to move forward? And looking at my own progression over my career, that when I came to an idea that, my job is well done when really started to make it so I could specifically identify both the goal and the measurements. It made it much easier for me to be strategic as I moved up, and I had to be more inclusive of that company mission vision statement. So, because like you're saying, it's the alignment, right? And I know for my teams over time, and a lot of times they're like, well, I don't get it. The mission statement, it doesn't include the help desk, right? It doesn't include the service operations. But yes, it does, because your goal is to support that. And, and making it more accessible by developing it into a guidepost, a North Star, a marching order, whatever you want to call it, helps the team see that mission statement and vision statement as accessible to them, not just something that's not pertained.
Mina, do you mind if I pick on you? Do you have any comments?
Yeah, thanks. Of doing this. Sure. Phil really took this challenge that I asked him to help me with, of doing this in a very short period of time, because I know this is a type of workshop that definitely could be done over a longer period of time. But I appreciate your accepting my challenge.
Certainly. I just picked on Mina for a second, and then I can just show you what the drawing is for, and then we can just do that quickly. Mina, your turn to be blunt and tell us, did this work for you, not work for you? Was it confusing? Was it easy? Worthwhile?
So at first, the concept was just kind of challenging to understand, but once you understand and the steps that you have to go through to really nail those points, it's fairly easy to follow. And doing it in a group, I feel like kind of gave us here at Box a better understanding of kind of where our mindset is at, what we're kind of focusing towards. So yeah, I feel like it was very beneficial.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so very quickly, I'll just show you the drawing. Is everybody left from Box now? No. Okay,
there's a
non-box.
couple
Michael, where are
non-box.
you from? Yeah. Okay, good.
Still got quite a few, the majority.
Okay, good. So are you all familiar with KCS, Knowledge Centered Support? Okay, so this is kind of the default standard for knowledge if you do it in any high-tech company. At Box, do you guys do it, KCS? No? So this has been around
Do you
for
have a
about
knowledge
20...
base or anything like that? So taking away the knowledge center support specific term, do you guys use a knowledge base or collect knowledge in some fashion for your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. We make use of Confluence pretty heavily.
So this is something that's probably well worth your while. 60 to 90% of what we do has been done by somebody before, right? In the same org. But when you add your partners and your customers, you can do some really amazing things, right? So very, very quickly, there's a standard that's been around for now in its 6th generation called KCS. And I'll be happy to chat with you guys about it. But this is some licensed material that we've taken to explain how to do KCS well. So this is projects. So it's fairly complex to understand, but it's all available for free. So just reach out to me later if you want. I'll connect you to all the free stuff. I'm not trying to sell anything, but I think this is like one of the most important things you could do to transform support, whether it's IT or external support, is KCS. You can do some amazing things based on it. Okay. It's hard to read and understand. So basically, we have created a 2-hour onboarding training for it, basically, right? That helps everybody understand. So it tells you, we call it Clever Knowledge. It's our version of it. The concept of coaching becomes really important. Articles and roles. From an article and a role, you can do some very sophisticated workflow, which you can then automate. Content standard is literally how to create an article type that's easy to translate, easy to use, allows people to do things, right? So how do you make sure it's running okay? How do you communicate about knowledge, etc.? Okay, I'll just quickly show you this thing on articles and roles. So I'm going to show you now the live version of it. This is what you'll get a month. 5 people can get a month of access. So assume you learned what knowledge in this.
Subscriptions for this.
Yeah. So this is online training for a person that can go through it, right? So what's an article and a role? It helps you manage and maintain the integrity of the information and knowledge base. So it captures collective knowledge and you're assigned roles based on your mastery. Little bit more, each article chronicles the steps you take to solve an issue. As more people access it and find the direction accurate and helpful, the level of confidence grows. And you follow a standard process. Right? And then the roles are knowledge worker assigned roles based on the level of mastery. There's different types that the consortium, that the standard has. You go to the next one. What's a status? It's just the level of certainty you have in a content. So it's all stuff you probably have, but it'll be done in a very powerful way because, again, when you do it by the standard, you can then see sort of who can see what, why you would do it. Then you'll talk about what different roles are, who's a candidate, who can actually publish. So the idea, like I said, is really to create an environment where people want to improve knowledge every time they touch it. It's not somebody else's job. So there's a role concept called UFA that says you use it if the piece of knowledge is accurate and right for what I need. If it's kind of sort of right, but doesn't meet the need for the customer, or I can't understand it, or there's something technically wrong, but my role does not allow me to fix it on the spot, I can flag it. Or I can fix it, or I can edit it. So it's a very simple process that all of us are accountable every time we touch it to make it better. And you can do some very, very sophisticated workflows from it. And this kind of will walk people through it. So well worth it because, and then there's some bozo they got to do some talks on stuff from different things. Anyway, so the idea is that if you've already got articles, it can probably take it to the next level. So you think about, again, Red Hat, Microsoft, Salesforce, you name the big tech company, they'll probably all follow a version of the standard. But if you want to get to very, very complex support, not just the break fix simple stuff that can be automated out or through AI powered chatbots and robotic process automation, but the other end, stuff that's really, really complex. There's only 2 people on the planet at Box or any company can fix it. And you've got one issue that, okay, now Jason's pulled in. Second issue, Mina's pulled in. and everybody works on it from a case first perspective. When you shift it to a knowledge first perspective, how do you make sure that you're working on the solution, which is a solution in progress? I have no clue what it is, but it smells like this. Contact me. Right? So my point is, you can get very, very sophisticated. You can automate it, all sorts of things. At Deutsche Bank, for example, the automation included getting third parties in so they could actually create content live when they were licensed as good as your own team. Make sense? So they could actually publish articles on the fly like your level 3 could at the same time. So this changes the game. So then you get time to publish as one of the key article roles, right? What are you making available to your customers, right? In their own words, so they can find it. That's one sort of measure. Another measure would be, if you can't find it, what is the time to publish in seconds? Frontline person, something that's not publicly available, how do you make it available in seconds? People like HPE, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, complex support, it went from weeks to days to 12 minutes. So there's lots of really cool things you can do if you follow this process. Anyway, I'll stop. Completely free. You're welcome to look at it and check it out.
Yep.
So Terry will help out with that.
We can talk about this for days and days, right? I just dropped an article in there since you guys are Atlassian Confluence. You mentioned that on KCS from Atlassian, but it is really embedded in most of the service management tools that are out there, either specifically or peripherally. Just in some ways, like iTool is often there, even if it's not called out. And KCS is a process that has evolved over the 3 decades I've been involved in service operations, and its most recent term is KCS. But it makes a lot of sense when I from the time I first discovered it until its most recent iteration, like, oh yeah, if we can just do that, and stop saying, if I only had a new tool, we could do that, because you don't need a new tool. It's about people and process, and about the looking at things differently, not like how many tickets you close, but like Phil was saying, how many seconds can we reduce this? Anyway, we digress. We are gonna, if you guys want to stick around for me to spin the wheel.
But anyways, thank you for staying so late. But I really appreciate your time. Just connect on LinkedIn, connect directly anytime you want. I'd love to keep in touch. And if I can help in any way, in anything you're doing in your career or your work, or even for fun, I try to give back. We're all part of HDI kind of roles because we're all learning and giving back, right? So,
yeah, thanks, Phil. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Oh, my wheel is not spinning.
Is this a must be present to win kind of spin?
No, obviously not.
You're hoping, is it? It might be a punishment.
The fun part is going to be between folks that came in. In fact, I probably should wait and pull my Zoom log anyway for the folks that were actually here. Actually, most everybody that registered were here. That's unusual. That's very exciting. And Jason, thanks for bringing all your peeps. I think they got a glimpse of something that you'll be talking about later, which is cool. I'm gonna run the wheel after, because it looks like my names that I dropped in here are not there. So I will redo it with my Zoom log.
Terry.
Thanks so much, everybody.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys. Thanks for your patience. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Hey, Terry. We can stop recording, I guess.